We did not trace in granular detail the history of funding the organizations, but we do have a thread that gives at least a basic idea of how that worked over time. In the middle of the 20th century period, the MIAs are raising their own funds. And MIA means the Young Men's and the Young Women's organizations. And a lot of their revenue is coming in through the Improvement Era, which is the magazine that the organizations published. And that was not unusual. The Relief Society had the Relief Society magazine, and the Sunday School had the Instructor, and this was just kind of the paradigm of how things worked. And then, of course, in the correlation era, as things are more centralized, the organization become part of the central budget system for the church. And those organizations were largely women's organizations, but not only. The Sunday School as well, the Young Men, they all come within this purview of this central budget plan. And there were trade-offs for that. And we didn't talk a lot about this in the book, but at the time it was kind of painful for the leaders. It was Florence Jacobson, who was the Young Women president, to turn over that money, to turn over that budget, and to kind of lose some of that autonomy. The women, particularly the leaders of the women's organizations, had taken a lot of pride for generations in being able to raise and manage money in a way that they felt distinguished them, and it was really meaningful for women to be able to do. So it was painful. It also freed them up from fundraising. There were definitely trade-offs in that. And one of the things that emerged, and Ardith was the first one to kind of really talk about this and put her finger on it, but because the Young Men had remained affiliated with the Boy Scouts, there was a whole budgetary world involved, both of having funds, raising funds, of having funds available to them, that had been lost for the Young Women. And so by the middle of the 1980s, Ardith is looking at it going, there's not parity here, it's not quite right. And it still took some time after that to work that out and to really come to recognize and to put systems and structures in place to where there would be more equity and more parity between the organizations in their funding. And I'm speaking here particularly on the local level, in the wards and in the states. It has been an issue over time. It's not one that we dwelled a lot on in the book, but we have some suggested anecdotes that kind of trace the trajectory.